I absolutely love the Slay the Spire video game, but I am so on the fence on if I'm going to be backing the board game or not. Hello, welcome to the channel. My name is Nelson. This is Nelson All Over, and we are here to talk about some board games, specifically today, Slay the Spire. Slay the Spire is a roguelike deck building video game that you can play on the app, you can play on the computer, on Nintendo Switch, on a lot of different platforms, and it is a very involved, excellent deck building game. You have 4 different classes where the goal is to progress along 3 or maybe 4 spires, defeating the villains. There's normal battles, elite battles, boss battles, and the idea is to make it all the way through while maintaining your current health, upgrading your deck, making your deck able to take on harsher challenges, and then finally getting the victory by beating the 3rd boss, or if you're even better at the game, beating that final heart. The game is so strategically deep. It has so much replayability. I have hundreds of hours just sunk into this video game. I love every single one of the classes. They all play so very different, and the breadth of what this game can provide is only matched by the depth of what it has. I highly recommend, highly recommend you check out the video game. You can usually find it on sale on an app store for like 10 bucks. So very much worth the price there. So naturally, when I saw that there was going to be a tabletop implementation of it, I was very excited. The Kickstarter launched about a week ago, and it's being run by Contention Games, which is a fairly small publishing company. And so far, they've been very successful. As of the recording of this video, they have over 17,000 backers and have already raised over $2 million. As of the release of the video, and I'm recording this a little bit ahead of time, they're going to have vastly surpassed those numbers. Very, very huge congratulations to Contention Games. They're knocking it out of the ballpark. There are a couple of things that have kind of held me back from hitting that back button. Now I have backed the $1, so I have access to the pledge manager because I just can't make up my mind. So I still may buy into it, but I wanted to talk through some of the reasons why I'm a little bit concerned with the tabletop implementation of this video game, and why I am kind of leaning to not backing it. To give a quick overview of the Kickstarter, there are 3 different tiers that you can buy into, and they are planning on fulfilling at the end of 2023. The tabletop implementation looks very true to form from the video game version of Slay the Spire. They have all 4 of the characters. From what I can see, I've watched a couple of the gameplay videos, I've read through the rulebook, that they function very similar to those characters in the video games, where each character has their own set of cards that they can be building their deck around. Those are all included. They have modifications on those cards that have been included into the tabletop version. You have the upgrading of cards, where you can be flipping those cards around and making them better or less expensive, or other ways of improving them throughout the game, which is a core mechanic in the video game. There are relics, there are potions, there's pretty much anything in the video game has been implemented into the tabletop version. Excellent job for just having a very true adaptation of a video game into a tabletop setting, and we're going to talk about that a little bit more. But let's dive into my first reason why I am not super comfortable with backing this game, and that's the obvious one, that it's cost. So the least expensive version of Slay the Spire is $100 pre-shipping. That's hefty. If you want the character playmats and the metal coins, they're going to charge you an extra $50, and then all in with the beta art, larger boxes, carrying bags, it's going to run you $210 all before shipping. The price honestly kind of shocked me. So this is a deck builder with a lot of cards and a good number of components, and so I can understand the justification of the price, but I was really expecting or hoping that we would see something in the $60 to $80 range as a starting pledge level. Seeing that base game at $100 is so very difficult to swallow, especially when you compare it to the digital version, which I paid $10 for. And then I bought it on Steam for $25, so $35 to have it on multiple different platforms, but it's a bit jarring to see triple digits as your lowest price point to bring into the game. And that right there was an instant kind of turnoff. I went to this Kickstarter page fully expecting to immediately hit that buy button, but when I saw that it was $100, I kind of had a little bit of reservation and started looking into it a little bit more, and that kind of leads me into my next point. And so I was talking about how they have a really faithful adaptation from the video game version to the tabletop, and that should be a good thing. But that's my reason too, is that it feels too similar. Slay the Spire, the video game, has a significant amount of randomized variability in it. The maps are all randomized, all the enemy movesets are different, there are combat rewards that are all randomized, and I was always concerned that they were going to struggle with the implementation of all of this RNG into a tabletop setting when I first heard that they were doing a Slay the Spire board game. And after seeing some of the playthroughs and the videos, they really did a good job. However, am I getting a lot more out of the tabletop version as opposed to the video game version? Should I just be sitting down and playing the video game by myself, which I have been happy with for hundreds of hours? Is the tabletop version going to be that much more fulfilling for me to buy? And yes, I know that I do prefer the tactile feel of moving things around, shuffling cards. I typically find myself that I think better when I'm not playing in a digital setting, and this game does offer co-op mode, which the app does not have, so there is that, which is excellent. I love the inclusion of that. It's not just a solo game, but I'm very concerned that am I going to be able to find someone who wants to dive into this game as deep as I am and play through all of the higher levels, the harder bosses, trying to beat the game in more challenging ways? Or are we just going to want to play a different deck builder and then I can be content with playing Slay the Spire on my digital version? That kind of catapults me into my final reason I'm leaning away from backing this campaign. That's the ancillary effect that it's being so similar to the video game, and bringing that to tabletop, I'm afraid that we're going to have so much bookkeeping, and that's going to make time really be an issue. Slay the Spire has so many cool relics and cards, potions, interactions, and ways that it can be very complicated to keep up with, even in a digital setting when the computer's doing every bit of math for you. So when you are in charge of keeping all of track of that, and they have very much made it a lot more user-friendly for ease of use to keep track of. And so I do appreciate that, but it can get a little overwhelming. And a lot of the playthrough videos where they get to the end of tier 1 or like Spire 1, where that's a 33% of the way through the game, they're well over an hour into the game. They have a significant amount of stuff on the table going on, and I feel like that can actually be a turnoff to a lot of new players, especially if they have not played the board game or the video game beforehand. So a lot of the tabletop implementations of different cards can easily be understood once you wrap your mind around how the board game plays. However, if you're playing with someone who does not have that background, I feel like this could be very intimidating and just a lot to keep track of. It is a progression roguelike, so you are leveling up and you're gaining these new abilities one at a time. So there is that benefit, right? So if you are playing, you're not necessarily being dumped a whole heap of new information. You're getting one new ability, two new abilities every single battle. And so it is a slow build, and you can learn your character that way. However, towards the end of Act 3, you have 20 different things that are all interacting with each other. And I think that can be very difficult and lead to some significant playtime. A lot of the gameplay videos that I've seen already, they do an excellent job of talking through their turns, and I do realize that that does take a little bit longer, but seeing 2-player games 33% of the way through the game being already over an hour long makes me feel that this is going to be a 3-hour long game that I can play in 40 minutes by myself on my tablet. Those two concerns right there, the time and the bookkeeping and trying to figure out and make sure everything is being kept up with, that is probably one of the biggest concerns that I have for this game. And the thing that keeps me coming back to Slay the Spire is the continued puzzle that it just throws at me. I would love to experience this on the tabletop version, and especially with the co-op mode. I love that we can play this game with 4 players. That is incredibly cool. But because of the previously listed responses, because now not only are you trying to figure out what all interactions you have, you're working with other players to figure out their interactions to try and optimize your turns. I think I'm leaning towards skipping this one. However, that does not mean I'm not going to try it. I'm absolutely going to be trying this when it does come out, and then I will reevaluate if I do want to pick up the retail version. And then I can make a better determination on if it is going to be something that will actually get to my table. I am so afraid that I'm just going to spend 100 and honestly probably 150. That middle tier with all the character playmats, the metal coins is very enticing. I'm afraid that I'm going to spend that kind of money. It's going to be, their current target release date is 2023, which I don't know if I've ever been a part of a Kickstarter that has met their target date. And so that seeing that so far out, them being a smaller company, I'm a little concerned with how big of a campaign this is for them, that maybe, you know, we're going to be pushed out into 2024. I could very easily see that happening. And I'm afraid that after all that time, it's going to sit on my shelf and look really cool, and I'm going to be out $200. And it's so hard because Slay the Spire is absolutely my favorite video game, but the cost, the implementation into a tabletop form being so true to the video game, which sounds like a benefit, but in my book is probably a negative. And then the bookkeeping and the time, I'm afraid that we will never get it to the table. And for those reasons, I'm probably passing on this, and that hurts me to say so very much. But yeah, it's crazy. I mean, it's been an excellent Kickstarter. They blew all of their goals way out of the water. It's very impressive. The game looks incredibly well done. They have the upgrading cards to flipping them around. Looks very interesting. And so I am not trying to make this video to say, please don't back this game. Do not back this game. I wanted to talk through some of the reasonings why I am not doing so, even though I do absolutely love Slay the Spire. Are you backing Slay the Spire? I am so very curious. Are any of these points that I talked about something that you also have concerns with? Let me know in the comments, because I want to talk through it a little bit more. I want a little bit of confirmation bias for some of my points. I would really appreciate that. But I'm also just kind of curious how everyone else is feeling, because I mean, with 17,000 backers, people are buying this game. And I've also seen the other side, that where people feel more like me, where it's like, okay, that's a lot to bite off, and it's a very expensive game. Maybe I don't want to fork over that money, or maybe I'm having the same reservations. Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this video and you want to see more board game content, every week we're doing videos and interviews. So if you are interested in following along, like the video and subscribe to the channel. It really does go a long way in helping the channel grow. Thank you all so very much for hanging out. Thank you. If you have not tried the video game, please go try out Slay the Spire. It's so incredibly good. I'm probably honestly going to end this video and play a run right now. Thanks for hanging out. See you around. Peace.